roots of it.
Oh, the roots of Christianity. So you're asking me, well, Christianity, I mean, I've studied the history of Ghana, and the Europeans came, and it was the same as the Igbos. And if you study any of the Christian tribes, or nations as I like to say, in Africa, they're the most powerful ones. So think about the Igbo, the Ashanti, the Zulus, the Mau Maus. They had to brainwash them, basically. Because if they have their mind, the African tradition, they're still going to be warring with you. So with Ghana, there's a thing they had called the 100 Years' War. Now, it wasn't a 100 Years' War, it was 5 skirmishes over 100 years. The last one finishing with Yasanswe. Now, once they whooped Yasanswe, bless her heart, big up the ancestor Yasanswe, that's when they could impose themselves. So the first thing they do is change the way you think. So they impose Christianity on you. So what they say now is, where your spiritual place of worship was, we're kicking that down. We're going to put a church there. If you want to eat, you've got to come through the church. That's how it was, bro. Same in Igbo land. Same with the Mau Maus, who we know were rebels. Same with the Zulus, who we know were like a fierce people. So I'm just mentioning them for there's others. But this is how Ghanaians became, or should I say Ashanti certainly, became Christians, because they fought against the British over 100-year period, King. And even Yasanswe, with some of the speeches she gave, powerful sister, saying, we're not giving up. If the men ain't going to fight, then the women are going to fight. You know what I mean? So this is the power we're talking about, but unfortunately, they got defeated. The British had more advanced weapons. The Tommy gun was the real kicker, basically. Because the way they beat this, the Zulus whooped them on a number of occasions, and when they got the Tommy gun, you only need like 20 men, and you can kill out 1,000 men easily. That's all it was. So that's how they beat the Zulus. But so Christianity came into Africa through, we know, the missionaries. Then it was administration, and then it was, if not, then we're going to bring the arms in, basically, if you don't do what we say. So that's how it came into Ghana, that's how it came into Igbo land, that's how it came with the Mau Maus, that's how it came with the Zulus. It was, they had a pattern, and we know what the missionaries did. They're the little injection to get you warmed up, basically. But really, they were spies, the missionaries. They were spies for the British to just, what's the word? To just look at the land and just to see what's where, and then report it back. So when the British wanted to come in with the arms, or their administration, they knew where everything was, basically. So this idea of how African people became Christians, it was really forced on African people, really, bro. Because if you didn't follow Christian tradition, didn't learn English, then you're not eating. And that's how it went, Bridge. And so, yeah, Christianity was imposed on African people. It wasn't necessarily taken voluntarily, if you like, by African people. Not the first generation, but maybe the generations after who were born into it. They accepted it, basically. So, go on, bro.
So, was God imposed on African people?
Good question, bro. African people had the concept of God, of course. But the God that African people, before Christianity, Islam, and anything else came in there, it wasn't... In the Western religions, God is a thing over there. It's like a spirit, or it's a big white man in the cloud. It's something over there that you pray to and you get, and yeah, okay, thank you. But in African culture, it's nothing like that. It encompasses everything in nature. So when we say God, we're actually including ourselves in the concept. So it's not even... John Henry Clarkson said it best. African man meant God, but he didn't say God. And when we say that, we mean... Excuse me. The concept of God in African culture came about through observing nature, yeah? So when we think about Ra, the sun god, Ra was called the sun before it was called the sun god. So this idea of the sun being the most powerful energy in the universe is what developed from that. And because it grew the crops, it brought the tide in and out, and the crops flourished, and it brought us heat and light. It's life. Bottom line is the sun is life. There's nothing beyond the sun. It's the sun that gives us life. That's what our ancestors saw. So what they then developed was these ideas of the sun being divine. That's where Ra, the god, came from. Do you understand, King? So it was if you study the history of life, the first societies were hunter-gatherer societies. They didn't have no concept of God. They were just living their lives in nature. And again, what they see in nature, they go, okay, the trees, the fruits, wow. So they named it. They named the trees, they named the earth. Wow, the rain, it flourishes. They named the rain. You understand? This is where all these gods come from. It's not God came and goes, Jay, this is me. This is my name. Like, take that there, yeah, and tell everybody who my name is. Even if you did see God, if you believe in that, how would you know it was God? So this is the questions we've got to ask ourselves. But just to go back to what I was saying, the concept of God came from nature, observing nature. So we see nature in of itself was divine. Not anything beyond nature. Nature was divine. The sun was the most powerful source. The earth was divine. The rain, the clouds, the sky, everything was divine. So what happened in time, and it really happened in Egypt in the 18th dynasty. This is the great dynasty. They got rid of the Hyksos, or the Hyksos is the correct term. They got rid of the Hyksos. And it was Ra was the main divinity, if you like, from the 5th dynasty to the 18th dynasty. When the 18th dynasty kicked in, people don't realise this. These were the people from the best. The best was the ones who come from the south. That was one of the first places they established. So these were the hardcore Africans, basically, the 18th dynasty. Because they got rid of all the Hyksos and all their silly worship.
So who the Hyksos?
The Hyksos were called shepherd kings. They came from what is modern day Israel, actually.
Carry on.
He was testing me there. So the 18th dynasty, this concept of so if you like, monotheism, one God, this God, that God, it started with the 18th dynasty because, as I said, from the 5th dynasty to the 18th dynasty, Ra was the main deity. There was others because when the Hyksos come, they worshipped Seti, which was cool still. We're not fighting Seti because Seti was part of the pantheon of gods, if you like. But I'm going to break that down. So the 18th dynasty come. Atmos, if my memory serves me right, was the first one. That's where they even say Moses come from, basically. But that's another story. Anyway, he came and he established Ammon. Ammon came from the south, Nubia, Kush, whatever you want to say. It wasn't necessarily original in Egypt. It came from the south. And they're saying, well, actually, you guys have lost it. We're bringing back these hardcore African ideas back now. So what happens is Ammon is worshipped during the 18th dynasty. And what happened then? Because these great kings got rid of the Hyksos, that's when it basically became more like a monotheistic idea. It's just Ammon we are deal with, basically. And you see Ammon in Christianity, you see Ammon in Islam, and you see Ammon in Judaism in various ways, but Ammon's in all of them. Now, Akhenaten, as we know, was part of the 18th dynasty, or maybe we don't know, but Akhenaten. And Europeans want to tell you that the one God concept came from him. It didn't. He was just copying what his father and because he came about 4th or 5th in that dynasty. So Ammon was worshipped like more than Ra. In fact, we're kind of negating the other divinities now. Ammon's number one, basically. And then what Akhenaten was trying to do with Aton, he was trying to just copy what his father and his great-grandfather and all these people had done before him to make Aten number one. And they said, no, we'll get rid of that. But the Europeans want to tell you Akhenaten developed this one God concept, but it wasn't. It was really from the 18th dynasty. So when they got rid of him, they brought back Ammon as the main deity. And that's where this idea of God being worshipped came from. Really, it was from the 18th dynasty because, again, African culture, everything is divine, basically, including us. So if we're in a soup, okay, I take this water is God, and I put a little bit of this water in here. Is this water separate from this? It's the same as it in it. It's not separate. The only difference is it's bigger in size, but not in quality. Yeah, it's bigger in quantity, but not in quality. And that's us. We're divine. We're just a small part of the soup, basically. And that's what our African ancestors realised, that there is no God out there. We are it, basically. We're the ones who can affect this world greatly. So, going back to the God concept, the one God concept came out of that. And in fact, the Judaism concept, because a lot of the priests of Akhenaten left Egypt after Akhenaten was passed away, and they went into places like Israel, modern day Israel, or where the Hyksos one, and that's where they get this Adam. Because if you study languages, Atum is really Adam. In Ethiopian, David is Dawit, so the D and the T are interchangeable. So Atum is Adam. We know if we study Amun, the original name for Amun was A-M-U-N. Sometimes it's A-M-O-N, and sometimes it's A-M-E-N, like the Christians say. So Atum, change the T to a D, the U can also become an A. So Atum is really Adam, basically. So that's where the Jews get it from. But they then took the one element of the pantheons, which was Amun, the invisible deity, and that's what they worship, basically. You understand? That's where this, in the Western religions, the God concept was born. It was born from just believing in one aspect of the pantheon, because every part of the pantheon is a whole. It creates a whole, I should say. So, for example, we were talking about Tahuti before. He's the master of writing, wisdom, etc. All these concepts, you've got to have to become a complete human being. Do you understand? You've got to recognize as Amun. There's an invisible aspect to you as well. That's the consciousness, the ether. You understand? You've got to learn to write. Lord of the underworld, we're going to die one day. That's Osiris. You understand? Everything plays a part. Even the elements of nature. Heat, air, earth, fire. Sorry. Earth, air, fire, water. Earth is the food we eat. Air is what we breathe. The fire is the heat in our bodies. The water is what we drink, the blood in our systems, yeah?
You are, it is you.
Absolutely, King. We are not in the universe is within us. As above, so below, as within, so without. That's what our African ancestors taught. So the God concept, it doesn't exist. It's a lie. It's a hype. The 18th dynasty, from that, this is where people started. So let me just go back to the 18th dynasty. So the belief, what happened was, instead of recognizing these creation stories as stories that are there to inform you, people started believing in them as though, do you understand? And that's what happened with Amun. People started believing that Amun could change their destiny, if you like, instead of recognizing that it was just a part of a pantheon, because they changed it from pantheon to really a one God concept or monotheistic concept. So this idea of God helping you, it's all nonsense. That's why we were talking before about the only people who are going to change our situation is us.
Collective.
And I just want to go mention Garvey. Garvey was a Christian. Garvey was a Catholic. Garvey believed in God. But Garvey was a deist. Researcher, deism. He did not believe, and they are called heretics in Christianity. They do not believe that God intervenes in human affairs. So if you study Garvey, God didn't do anything for Garvey's movement, it was the people, clearly. So, and who made the greatest movement for African people in the 20th century? It was Garvey, and God wasn't involved. Do you understand, King? So that's why we have to recognize that this whole God concept is an illusion. We're not waiting on God to do nothing for us.
Doing us more harm than good.
Bro, the ones who know God is a virus, God is an illusion, God is a deception. Yeah, God is a virus.
No, he is.
God is a virus.
He is.
God is because whatever it is you're looking for in this God concept, really, is in you. Everything you're looking for in God is really in you, you know. Look, we can quote the Bible. No, I'm not a Bible person, and all you know me, I'm not. But I'm just trying to tell Christian people, even in your own Bible, it tells you there's two verses I'm going to use. Matthew 6, verse 31, or it could be 33. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added, yeah? It says that we know there's a African saying from the Temple of Luxor, which is very similar to that, Jay, about, look, if you seek the kingdom of heaven, you found yourself, essentially. That's where they get it from. Luke 17, verse 21 tells you where the kingdom of heaven is within. So if the Bible is telling you, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, then why are you telling me about Jesus and God? The kingdom of heaven is within. Yeah, so why are you telling me about Jesus and God? It's within me. So the first thing I need to do is look within myself. Proverbs 4, verse 23 says, seek ye the issues of your own heart, because out of it, seek ye your own heart, stabilize your own heart, because out of it come the issues of life. Above all else, it says. So one is telling you above all else. The other one is seek ye first. But everyone's telling you about Jesus and God. They haven't got it right, King. They're confused. So I'm telling these people, you've got to look within yourself, man. The power is within you. It always has been. You know. I'll say one thing. I brought Muta Baruka to England in 2010. And everyone's going to me, how did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? I said, because I visualised. I don't pray. I don't believe in God, none of that nonsense. I visualised. I saw clearly what I wanted. Like when you were having that box, you saw it. We expected the positive outcome. And the energy bubbled up so much, I just went and did it. And that's how you do it. You see it, you feel it, and do it. That's it. You don't need to believe in nothing except yourself and your own ability and that power that you have. So the God concept is an illusion. Stop waiting on God. God ain't going to do nothing for you. God hasn't done anything for African people if you look at our history. All the achievements of African people have come from African people. Garveyism, Rasta, the nation. I think the nation have done some amazing things, buying land, growing their own food. It wasn't God, it wasn't Allah who did it for them. It was them who did it for themselves. The Maroons, these are my three go-tos, the Maroons, the Haitian Revolution, and Garvey. None of them used God or Western gods. The Maroons were Africans. They said, I believe in my African liberty. We're not following your nonsense. We're freeing ourselves. The Haitian revolutions, we know Dutty Bookman was an African priest. Cecile Fatiman was an African priest. They're the ones who presided over the initial run-ins in 1791.
Stop praying to the white man.
Stop praying to the white man's God and trust in your own things, yeah? And when you support your own cultural aspect, you can't be harmed. That's the mentality we had, man. Believing in yourself. And again, Garvey, great movements, no God concept involved. Except the God's there, but God's not doing nothing for us. We have to do it for ourselves.
I really said, if I thought God could help us, I would have been a bishop.
Well, the thing is, you could have been a bishop, basically, because the best spokesman, and you too, as you talk about, and anyone who can talk, who's a DJ, like an MC, rapper, who's a radio presenter, could be a preacher. I say, I've got to say, the preacher and the pimp, there's no difference. The preacher and the pimp, there's no difference because they still manipulate people's minds, don't they? They manipulate people's minds to do what you want, especially women. Do you know? Exactly, King. And if you think about Paul Vogel, Sam Sharp, another two great men, they were preachers, yeah, because they were intelligent. That's what you become. Edward Wilmot Blyden, one of the main people who inspired Garvey, was a preacher. They saw great value. Oh, you can become a preacher. That's the first thing they say, King, back then. And he was a great man, Edward Wilmot Blyden. I encourage people to do research on him. He was a massive inspiration to Garvey. So yeah, the preacher. Sorry, what were you saying, bro? The preacher.
I just said that Garvey said that if he thought God
right,
could have helped, he would have been.
It would have been a bishop, right? Exactly, and that's why he wasn't. And see, what people don't realise with Garvey, and he didn't push the Christian thing because he recognised, like Rasta did, it's just a tool. It's a means to an end. It's a tool to help Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is the major goal. African liberation is the major goal. And we're going to use everything, including the Bible. Psalm 68, verse 31, princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall stretch forth the hand. I'm not a Christian, everybody, just to be clear. I'm just telling you what they were thinking. So he's using it to inspire black people to free themselves, basically, King. Not to follow Bible. Do you understand? He's not saying be Christian, because in Garvey's movements we had Muslims, we had Elijah Muhammad was there, we had the Israeli Rastas, Leonard Piawol, Joseph Hibbert, Dunkley, Hines, all of them who were the forefathers of Rasta were all Garveyites. And they had Jewish people. Rabbi Ford was his musical director. You know what I'm saying, King? So, and there was a big Jewish conglomerate in Garvey's movement. So it wasn't a religious movement, so to speak, even though it had a variety of people who were following different trends, if you like. It was a Pan-African movement. It was here to free black people, and we're going to use everything to free our people, basically. And that's how the Bible was used. So we don't use the Bible as the ends in of itself. It's not. We use it as a means to an end. If you want to use it, I personally don't. It's a reference book for me to connect what is African from the book, basically. Or where, for example, Noah is the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is from Babylon or Mesopotamia. I can't remember the exact place, but it's in that Iraq, Iran part of the world, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in the Bible which is BS. It's made up. It's nonsensical. But I'm not bigging up the Bible. There's a lot of stuff in there which is really from our African traditions, and anything to do with looking within yourself or knowing ourselves as divine. That's where the Bible correlates. But I reject Bible, I reject Quran, I reject Torah, I say it's our culture that's going to free us. It's our knowledge of self that's going to free us. It's knowing who we are and our place in the world. But we have to know it from a historical perspective always. And that's how we can go into the future. The history informs now, and the present, with the information you've got now, informs your future, basically. So that's how we've got to do it. Don't stutter, Jay, it's okay.
About 10 years ago, yeah, you used to do a radio show.
Yeah,
About
was
10
it that long ago, bro?
Bro, it was about 10 years ago.
I've been on
There's one line that you said, yeah, that has shaped my world since I've heard that one line. And you said it's only African culture that's going to free us as African people.
Absolutely.
And obviously it made me challenge all the ideas that was going on in my head, like blew my mind. Now, I'm gonna throw two questions at you.
Sure, bro, sure.
The first thing you saying about atom and atom, is it almost like these other nations recognize what we had going on? How much do you think it helped them? And then the second part to my question is, why shouldn't we just join them if they're using African ideas anyway? Why don't we be a part of it?
So the first question is, it came from us. Sorry, say the first question, the first part.
Atom and Adam, if they're using our ideas, how instrumental do you think that our ideas have been on creating?
Well, good question, bro. I think that we're the mothers and fathers of civilization, aren't we? We said it before, we're the most loving people. Why are we loving to all races? Because we're the mothers, and that's what a mother does and a father does. They love the children, don't they? That's why we're so loving, do you understand, King? So so we our ideas is...
Not disciplinarians.
Our,
Listen, because our people deserve some licks. Real hard licks. Yeah.
our ideas are everything. Okay, so we have the Bible, we have the Quran, we have the Torah. Where do you think these books come from? These books come from people, these Africans who had lived it. We just live it. We don't need a book to know anything. It's in us already. We were going to these places sharing our ideas. And they are animals, they were savages, they are Neanderthals, sorry, yeah. They couldn't get it, so we had to write a book, or they had to write a book for themselves, so they can read it every day, go, oh yeah, that's how I'm supposed to behave, basically. You understand? We just knew it, because we come from the earth, and we're informed from the earth. That's why we try to live at one with nature, that's why we respected nature, because everything from us was natural. Even our music is natural. That's why everybody loves it. You know what I mean? So yeah, our ideas are foundational. I'm going to give you an example.
The atom. That's what I was thinking when you were saying this about atom. The atom.
Atom. There you go, bro. Exactly.
The foundation.
The foundation. Even though they said there's quarks and the protons and but yeah, the atom is the foundation of the physical world, basically, essentially.
But atom, you're saying it comes from the word Adam. So it's almost
not other way around. Adam comes from atom. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So they knew this.
Of course, bro.
And they've known Adam longer than they've known about atoms. I assume.
No,
Atom
Atom was a god. Sorry, Jerome. Go on, bro.
I'm talking about scientists.
Atom come first, but even in science, atom.
Absolutely. The atom, absolutely,
so
bro.
Not only how did it, so equating atom with Adam being the beginning, but then they still went to the African version of the word. So it's almost like they really know the root of our thing, and they're using it in their science.
Absolutely,
so
bro.
How impactful has African wisdom been for them? And why shouldn't we join them?
But it's why are we joining them? Why are we joining them? Hell no. They join us. Music, fashion, everything, they join us, man. So let's get it right. We don't join them, man.
I'll cut off the source of power. We're the power. They need the source of power.
That's right, bro.
This is why mixing with them,
it's a no-no.
Has to stop. Because they're feeding off of us.
100%, bro.
As you said, it's the harvesting. They're feeding off the main source of power.
100%. Well, I'm going to give you an example of what you're saying, and them feeding off us and etc. York was the capital of England back in the day, or it was a major city, spiritual city. Even the first black Roman general was buried there.
It's still kind of now, but they just
London,
focus on it.
Yeah, but York is a very important city. Yeah, the Archbishop of York was the main man back in the day, basically. So, what's the biggest, most important city in America?
Washington DC.
Actually, he's right, you know. But for those who know, King, you're right. DC is the main place, man.
Say that again?
It's a military.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
No,
In terms
you're
of-
right. But I'm talking about in popularity.
Okay.
It's New York, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, why is it called New York?
Ah.
Right?
Yes.
They're just trying to create the empire. Now, remember, you've got two Masonic rites. You've got Scottish and York.
Yeah.
York's the one they follow. So they're really, you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
And remember, the dollar bill, it's got the Eye of Horus on it. Now, what the most people who talk, oh, Illuminati, Illuminati, they say the Eye of Horus is the devil. It's not the devil. It's the knowledge of self, basically. But they've inverted our symbols, basically. Just like also they've inverted... Sorry, King?
You don't look into it. So if they say Illuminati, I have the devil, you don't look into it because you think I don't want nothing to do with it.
That's exactly right, bro. If you're a YouTube scholar, then that's all you're going to understand. But if you understand African history, this is why it's important, I say, to read your history. You'll see that the eye is one of the most powerful symbols, basically. It's telling you about your inner self, because Heru represented the inner core. That's what Heru represented. And this is why a lot of our people believing in this nonsense are lost. So our concepts have been inverted. For example, the swastika. Great book, J. Rogers, 100 Great African Men, I think. It shows one of the Roman generals, or an African, he had a swastika on his head. It was a powerful symbol, the swastika. But they've inverted it to create whatever it is they want. And people only see that and go, oh, that's nice, oh God, oh no. No, these symbols are powerful, these symbols are important, but we have to understand that it's not the devil, it's not this and it's not that. They've just inverted our symbols. It's like in one of the Olympic Games. They had the bull there, and everyone's going, oh, it's the bull, that's a bull they worship. Now, Hathor was represented as a bull. Hathor is an Egyptian deity. It didn't represent whatever it is you think it does. So this is what I'm saying, that our ideas have been inverted, have been changed around, and that's part of the problem that our people don't understand. So, just going back to the question, where we are the foundation of life, but unfortunately we don't know it, basically. And even if you just look at the music, from Elvis Presley, we don't even need to go back further. Just study Elvis Presley, he copied black music,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
one of the biggest stars. The Beatles, that's the 50s, the 60s. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, they all copied black music. They're the biggest Beatles, everyone loves the Beatles. The Beatles are the best band ever. We talk about the 70s, the average white band, different bands. Nowadays, Eminem.
You missed that Madonna?
I'm not talking about Madonna.
No, but they said
Loud
that-
Madonna.
I heard they said that a lot of the things that holiday.
Yeah, and the Holidays was, when I first heard that and I didn't know it was her, I thought it was a black woman singing. It's got a black vibe, absolutely. It's, of course, King. Look, their biggest stars all copy black music. Every single one of them. Even the ones who do the odd music like Led Zeppelin, they're coming from the blues. Do you understand? But they just do it in their European way. Even Genesis. Phil Collins, what did he do when he started coming out by himself? You can hurry, love. He's doing black people's music. Peter Gabriel, I watched the show on him, he goes, oh yeah, I love soul music. I said, rah, what? So, black music informs these people. Let's get it right. Black people, they want to, even in reggae, white people want to even change their accent to sound like a black man. So let's get it right, man.
So you said that, no, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that God is a virus.
Right.
Now, this guy. So, you know, what they've presented to us, God's white, right? Caucasian.
Lie.
Is it safe to say that, based on what we know, that the Caucasians are a virus to us?
That's a good question. You know, it's Caucasians and a virus. What I'd say is that it's not even the people per se, it's the ideas.
The mind.
It's the mind, King, yeah. Because, look, Malcolm X was asked about, can a white man join your organisation? He goes, hell no, but we might give John Brown a blight. You understand what I'm saying, bro? John Brown was a radical white man, basically, bro. So, to me, it's the ideas that you inculcate, and obviously living in a white society, if you're not a critical thinker, you're going to inculcate Eurocentric ideas. But we've got to remember, King, when we talk about white supremacy, it's not just white people involved in it, is it? You understand, King? So that's why I'm saying it's not necessarily the people. John Brown, we love you, John Brown, but we don't love African sellouts or the Caribbean sellouts who are selling us out to the Chinese. We don't love them. You understand what I'm saying? In Rasta, it started off with death to black oppressors. Sorry, to white oppressors, not black oppressors. Death to white oppressors, because the white system was mostly white faces, basically. But then we saw African sellouts, the ones who shot Malcolm X, for example, the ones who sold Marcus Garvey out. So we changed it to death to white and black oppressors, basically, because who's more of an enemy to you? Is it the white man or your black brother or sister who's willing to mess you up to get ahead in white society? You know what I'm saying, King? Who's, yeah. So for me, the God, it's not even white people. It's the idea of believing in white people. That's why as Rasta we have, some say Haile Selassie is God. It's a black man. Some say Haile Selassie is like Jesus. Great. But we have to look at a black man to save us or a black woman to save us. When I say save us, I don't mean, come here, lad, let's go. I'm going to show you how to do this and that. No. You save yourself. That's the essence of it. So, and if you're going to look for anyone to save you, which you shouldn't, it has to be an African, basically, I'm saying, or a black person. So, to me, it's the concept of God which is destructive. Yeah? Even in African culture, believing in Ammon didn't save the people. Do you understand what I'm saying, King? Because we were still put in slavery. So it's not the God itself, it's yeah, and also, your mind is to me, it's soul, you can say soul, heart, it's really the mind, and the mind encompasses all of that. Yeah. If you are brainwashed to believe something is true that's not true, that's the virus, brethren. Because truth is what should be flowing through us. That's why we encourage you to read your history, because you'll learn more of the truth about who you are and what it will teach you. That's why I use the Maroons, the Haitian Revolution and Garvey, because all these powerful elements, we can talk about ancient Egypt, but just those three, during the Marfa, they didn't use the concept of God to help them, but they were the most powerful examples of Africans freeing themselves. Because why? Because we used our own African ideas and our own African culture. Not God. God help me. Ammon help me. Ptah help me. No, not that. But recognizing that you're it, and if you want something from outer life, only you can get it for you, basically. So for me, it's about, yes, getting rid of the white image of God, 100%, King, 100%. That's probably the most destructive force for African people, 100%. And it's recognizing that you're divine. So even in Rasta, I'm not saying Haile Selassie is God. I'm not saying none of those things. I'm saying Haile Selassie is a reflection of you. You're a king. You see Haile Selassie as a king, you're a king. You see his wife, he's a reminder, exactly. That's what it was to me, and that's what it was to the original Howell. He didn't say Haile Selassie is God, Haile Selassie is Jesus originally. He said, Haile Selassie, this symbolism of Haile is here to free us, to make us know who we truly are. So that's what I'm rolling with. So that's why, when I said at the beginning, the very first things we must say, I am an African king, a divine African king, and for the lady, I am a divine African queen, and that's it, basically. So that's why God is a virus, because this God is encouraging you to wait on it, him, her, it, to save you, when really you save yourself. Garvey taught us that. The Haitian Revolution has taught us that. If you study our history, it's taught us that. And if you look at the Maroons, that teaches us that as well. And actually, again, Garvey's ideas came from out of the Maroons, because in my study of the Maroons, if you think about it, the same concepts of black pride, of self-reliance and nationhood are all Maroons' ideas, because the first thing they have to do is to be proud to be black, to resist that nasty system. That's what they were saying. You've got to know you're African. You've got to be proud to be black, proud to be African. The second, self-reliance, obviously, because if they've run out of a place and they don't know what the hell's going on, they have to learn to plant food, they have to build buildings, self-reliance. And then also, it wasn't just, for example, in Jamaica, Ashanti, there was Igbos there was your... So it's nationhood again. We have to have, no matter if we're not dealing with this tribal nonsense here, one black world with the Maroons right now, you know. So that's why these ideas are very important, and like I said, they've informed me from childhood, and from I was a teenager, and it's always been emphasis on blackness, your Africanness, love it, put that first, reject the Eurocentric God. If you look at the African cultural system, it tells us that you're divine, you're a reflection of nature. You're divine. So the God concept has to get kicked out the window for African people. The power lies with you. Recognize it. Even in the African prayer system, the prayer system is visualization. Do you understand? You know that, King. The prayer system is to visualize what you want and you feel it like you're there. You understand? There's a saying in Buddhism, and it's the same as, obviously, Buddhism was there. He was obviously in Africa. It's a saying that you get there by realizing you're already there. And that's how our people need to think. So the virus, God, is stopping you thinking that because you're waiting on God to do the very thing you could be doing yourself. So that's why God is a virus, bro. It's stopping our people achieving what we need to achieve.